Commander Rylan Ward did not struggle when the Asterian soldiers dragged him through the long crystalline corridor. Their armor glowed with faint blue light, their footsteps echoing sharply across the polished floor. The air was cold enough to numb the skin, but Rylan kept his expression calm. He looked almost relaxed, as if he were walking through a familiar place instead of being escorted as a prisoner into the heart of an alien empire. The Asterians were taller than humans, with long, elegant limbs and smooth silver skin that shimmered with every movement. Their eyes held no pupils, only shifting colors that revealed their emotions in subtle ways. Right now, those colors showed irritation, curiosity, and a small hint of fear. They had captured humans before, but none behaved like Rylan. None walked silently with his hands bound, breathing slow, posture relaxed, as though everything around him were a minor inconvenience. The guards finally stopped before a massive door made of translucent crystal. Strange, glowing veins ran through it like living circuits. One soldier placed his hand against the surface, and the veins brightened. The door dissolved into mist. Inside waited the throne chamber of Queen Serelix. The room rose high, almost disappearing into shadows above. Pale crystal pillars curved like giant roots, meeting at the ceiling in a web of light. At the center stood a platform shaped like a blooming flower, and upon it sat the queen. Her throne was formed from the same living crystal as the pillars, glowing softly beneath her. Queen Serelix's appearance was striking even to her own people. Her silver skin seemed more polished, more reflective. Her tall form, perfectly still. A long mantle of shimmering threads draped behind her, moving as though stirred by invisible currents. Her eyes, though pupilless like the others, glowed faint purple, a sign of her powerful psychic abilities. Rylan stopped at the base of the platform. The guards pushed him to his knees, but he resisted just enough so they understood he did not like being forced. The queen raised one slender hand, and the guards stepped back. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Rylan looked up with steady eyes. The queen observed him with a calm expression, but inside her mind, sharp calculations moved quickly. She had expected a frightened prisoner, a desperate soldier. Instead, she saw a human with an unusual aura, one she could not fully read. It was like looking at a closed door that refused to open. No matter how her senses reached out, she could not peer into his mind. That alone stirred her curiosity. "So," she finally said, her voice smooth and melodic, echoing faintly through the chamber. "You are the human who resisted my scouts with no weapon, no armor, and yet survived longer than any other, Commander Rylan Ward." Her pronunciation of his name was near perfect. The Asterians were excellent at studying languages. Rylan kept his tone even. "You already know who I am. What do you want?" The guards stiffened at his straightforward tone. Speaking to their queen without formal respect was nearly unthinkable. But Serelix did not seem offended. In fact, she tilted her head slightly, intrigued. "You do not fear me," she said. "I don't fear what I don't understand," Rylan replied. "And I don't understand you yet." A small ripple of purple moved through the queen's eyes. It was the Asterian sign of amusement. Bold. Humans usually tremble before me. I'm not most humans. "Yes," she murmured softly. "I can see that." She stood from her throne with slow, graceful movement. Each step she took made the crystal floor resonate like a soft chime. When she reached Rylan, she studied him as though examining a rare artifact. She circled him once, her gaze sharp but calm. There was something about him, something quiet, hidden, yet powerful. His vital signs were steady, too steady for someone in captivity. His body temperature remained stable. And then, even his breathing showed discipline. She could sense no psychic fear, no chaotic emotions, nothing she expected from a captured warrior. Then she attempted a simple mental probe. The moment her mind touched his, she felt a faint resistance, not aggressive, not defensive. Simply present. Like touching the surface of a smooth sphere that allowed no penetration. Her psychic sense pressed gently, but nothing opened. The door remained closed. Queen Serelix paused. No human had ever blocked her without technology or training. That made her curiosity deepen. "You are unusual," she said quietly. "Your mind resists mine. Yet, I sense no anger from you." Rylan gave a small shrug. "I'm not here to fight you. Yet you fought my soldiers. They attacked first." Her eyes brightened slightly, acknowledging the truth. Rylan's bindings released with a soft hiss as the queen gestured. The soldiers hesitated, but obeyed her command. Rylan stood, slowly, rubbing his wrists. Though he showed no discomfort. "You will be taken to an isolation chamber," Serelix said. "I wish to study you further." "I'm not an object," Rylan replied. "No," she agreed softly. "You are not. That is why you interest me." The queen stepped closer, almost within arm's reach. Her voice lowered, though the guards still heard every word. "There is something inside you," she said. "Something that feels dormant, like a sleeping star. It does not react to me. It does not react to my probes. But it is there." Rylan stared at her without speaking. "What is it?" she asked. He looked directly into her glowing eyes. "You'll find out eventually." A faint flicker of surprise crossed the queen's face. Not many beings dared to speak so casually before her. She studied him one more time, then turned away. "Take him," she ordered. The guards began leading Rylan out of the chamber. As he left, the queen watched the back of his silhouette. For the first time, in many cycles, she felt something she rarely experienced: uncertainty. Not fear, not danger. Only the sense that this human might not fit into any category. Her empire understood. When the doors closed behind Rylan, Queen Serelix remained still, her thoughts deep and quiet. She had captured many humans before, but this one felt different, and she intended to discover why. Rylan sat quietly in the isolation chamber, as the heavy door sealed behind him with a smooth, metallic hum. The room was made of the same pale crystal as the rest of the palace, but this chamber felt colder, emptier. The walls curved in a perfect circle, like he was sitting in the center of a giant, hollow eye. Soft blue lights glowed from the floor, casting faint reflections along the walls. 2 Astarian guards stood outside the transparent barrier, watching him with unreadable expressions. Rylan ignored them. He lowered himself to the floor and crossed his legs, breathing slowly. His heartbeat remained steady. Almost too steady for someone in a prison cell deep inside an alien empire. But Rylan had learned long ago that fear never helped anyone. Calmness did. His mind drifted not to memories of battle, not to the moment he was captured, but to the strange power that lay inside him. He had felt it earlier, when the queen tried to look into his thoughts. The energy had stirred like an animal awakening from sleep, reacting to her presence without needing his permission. It wasn't wild or dangerous. It simply existed, steady and silent, like a star buried in his chest. He didn't fully understand it. He only knew it was growing. Outside the chamber, the Astarian researchers watched him through a network of screens. Their elegant fingers danced across crystalline consoles, projecting layers of data. They studied his temperature, heartbeat, brain activity, even the micro-movements of his muscles. No anomalies. No psychic waves. Nothing unusual. Yet the queen insisted something about him was different. So they kept observing. Rylan closed his eyes. He focused on his breathing, letting the world fall away. The chamber was silent, except for a soft hum that came from the energy fields in the walls. He let the sound fade from his mind. He let the coldness fade. He let everything fade until only his own thoughts remained. He remembered the colony outpost on Vega 4, the place where everything changed. The attack had come without warning, an unknown alien species, aggressive and coordinated. The colony had been losing. People were panicked. Soldiers were overwhelmed. And then, something inside him snapped open. He remembered the world slowing. Light bending around him. Sound stretching like pulled fabric. He remembered a warmth inside his chest. Steady and bright. Spreading through every part of him. He remembered moving without thinking, shifting faster than he felt possible. Reacting with precision he had never trained for. He saved everyone that day. But afterward, the power refused to show itself again unless he was in danger. It slept most of the time. Deep inside him. Silent but present. Now, in this chamber, he could feel it stirring again. His breathing slowed. The lights in the room flickered faintly, though he wasn't trying to do anything. His calmness deepened, and the energy inside him pulsed once. Like a quiet heartbeat, the flicker grew sharper. Outside, one of the guards frowned and looked at the monitors. Energy fluctuation in the chamber. It's minor, the other said. Probably a system recalibration. But the first guard wasn't convinced. It aligns with the prisoner's brainwave shift. That made both guards stare more closely. Inside the room, Rylan opened his eyes. He didn't look surprised when he saw the lights flicker again. He simply watched the ceiling, as if listening to something only he could hear. His voice was calm when he spoke, even though he knew no one was listening directly. Not now, he murmured to the power inside him. Stay still. The chamber lights steadied again. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. On the other side of the palace, Queen Serelix stood in her personal study, reviewing the energy readings with a deep crease in her normally serene expression. She had ordered the monitoring herself after sensing something strange during their first encounter. Now, the data confirmed her instinct. There was a pattern in the fluctuations. Subtle, but not random. It reminded her of something she had once studied long ago, an old theory about resonance energy. A rare internal force some species were rumored to develop over thousands of years. Most believed it was only myth. But humans were still evolving. Fast. Too fast. She decided she needed to see him again. Back in the isolation chamber, Rylan looked up when the door opened. The guard stepped aside as the queen herself entered, her presence instantly filling the room with a quiet authority. Her glowing mantle gently brushed the floor behind her. Rylan stood, hands at his sides, expression still calm. You are difficult to understand, the queen said, her voice low and controlled. That makes two of us, he replied. Her eyes glowed a deeper purple, a sign of intense focus. She circled the chamber once, observing the walls. This room is designed to hold creatures much stronger than you. Yet it reacted to your presence. I didn't do anything. Yes, she said softly. That is what concerns me. She stepped closer to him, her face unreadable. What awakened inside you during the attack on your colony? Rylan didn't answer immediately. He searched her expression, unsure how much to reveal. The truth was simple, but explaining it would lead to more questions he didn't want to answer. I don't know, he finally said. Something changed. I don't fully understand it. You felt it today, she said. When I touched your mind. He didn't respond, which told her everything she needed. She lowered her voice. Humanity grows fast. Too fast for our records. Your species adapts with every challenge. You break limits, as if they are suggestions. Rylan didn't deny it. She studied him again, but this time there was something different in her gaze. The curiosity remained, but now, there was also caution. You hold a power you do not understand, she said, and that makes you dangerous. I'm only dangerous if someone forces me to be. The queen paused at his words. Then, slowly, she nodded. Perhaps. She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, the lights flickered again, sharper this time, enough to make the guards tense. The floor vibrated lightly beneath them. The energy inside Rylan pulsed, reacting to the queen's presence, as though sensing the focus she directed toward him. Rylan closed his eyes for a moment, steadying himself. When he opened them again, the flicker stopped. The queen looked back at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. Not in anger, more in fascination. "You are more than you appear, human." Rylan met her gaze without flinching. Maybe. Maybe not. Serelix held his eyes for several long seconds. Then, she quietly left the chamber, leaving him alone again. As the door closed, Rylan sat back on the floor, feeling the silent energy inside him settle once more. He knew one thing for certain. The queen was getting closer to the truth, and the more she searched, the harder it would be to keep the power hidden. Rylan stayed seated on the cold crystal floor long after the queen left. The chamber was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. It was heavier, as if the air carried her curiosity and her doubt, even in her absence. The faint lights in the walls glowed softly, steady for the moment. But he knew the peace would not last. His power had reacted twice already, both times without his permission. He had managed to calm it, but he could feel it growing more alert, more awake. He breathed slowly, trying to center himself. He needed control. He needed calm. The Asterians didn't understand what lived inside him. He barely understood it himself. But the one thing he knew was that the energy responded to emotion, to intention, to danger. And if he lost control in this place, the consequences would be unpredictable. Outside the chamber, the guards kept watch, though both looked more uneasy than before. The queen's interest had turned their routine assignment into something far more serious. Every flicker in the chamber walls made them straighten nervously. Every shift in Rylan's posture made them check their monitors twice. Their empire had conquered dozens of worlds, seen hundreds of species, and studied countless anomalies. But this human was different. He showed no fear, no panic, no anger, only calm. That calmness unsettled them more than any aggression. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. Both guards immediately straightened. The footsteps were soft, measured, and carried a certain authority. Queen Serelix appeared again, accompanied by two high-ranking researchers. Their long white robes shimmered faintly, marking their status as masters of psychic science. The queen stopped before the chamber, her eyes focused on Rylan through the transparent barrier. He opened his eyes, as if sensing her presence the moment she arrived. The researchers activated a control panel, and the barrier dissolved, allowing the queen to step inside. The guards remained at the entrance, tense but silent. Rylan stood slowly, neither bowed nor showed disrespect. He simply met her gaze. "I will attempt something different today," Serelix said calmly. Rylan didn't respond. He waited. One of the researchers stepped forward, holding a thin crystal tablet. "We have prepared a controlled psychic resonance test," she explained. "It will not harm you. It measures reaction." "And if I react?" Rylan asked. The queen's voice was smooth. "Then we learn." Rylan took a slow breath. He didn't want this, but he also knew resistance would only make them push harder. The test was unavoidable. The best thing he could do was remain calm and keep the energy inside him from breaking free. The researcher pressed a sequence on the tablet. A circle of light appeared on the floor around Rylan, forming a faint, shimmering ring. It wasn't a cage, it didn't trap him, but it created an environment where psychic waves could be measured clearly. The queen stepped closer, her expression focused. "I will not enter your mind," she said. "I will only touch the energy around you." Rylan nodded. "I'll try to stay still." The queen extended her hand and slowly reached toward him. A soft violet glow gathered around her fingers, spreading like a gentle mist. It flowed toward Rylan, touching the air around him, sensing his breathing, reading the space between him and the ground. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the glow met something invisible. The queen felt it instantly, a soft resistance, like touching a shield made of warm light. It wasn't aggressive, but it was firm. It didn't push her away, yet it didn't allow her to come closer. She paused, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. The researcher stared at the readings, her hands shaking slightly. This is impossible, the researcher whispered. He has no psychic training, no alien technology. Yet he's creating a resonance field instinctively. Rylan didn't move. His breathing stayed slow, but he felt the power inside him reacting to the queen's touch again. It wasn't angry. It wasn't scared. It simply woke up, like a creature stretching in its sleep. The queen tried again, increasing her focus. The glow reached forward, touching the invisible barrier with more force. The chamber lights flickered instantly. The floor vibrated faintly. The air shifted. The guard stepped back on instinct. Rylan clenched his jaw and whispered under his breath, "Stay calm. Stay calm." The energy responded to his voice. The flicker softened. The vibration steadied. The queen withdrew her hand, her expression unreadable. For several long seconds, the room was silent. "It listens to you." Rylan shook his head. "It doesn't listen. It reacts. I try to guide it." "Guide?" she repeated, "as if it has a mind of its own." "It feels alive," Rylan admitted quietly. "I don't control it. Not completely." The queen absorbed his words with deep thought. The researchers exchanged worried glances. A power that responded to emotion, instinct, and intention rather than commands was unpredictable, dangerous. And if humans could develop such abilities naturally, even rarely, then the entire balance of the galaxy could shift. The queen stepped closer again, her voice softer than before. Rylan hesitated. "Sometimes." She studied him. "And right now?" He met her gaze. "Right now, I fear what you might do with what you learn." Her eyes glowed faintly, a sign she understood the weight of his words. "It is not my intention to harm you," she said. "But I must understand you. The future of my empire may depend on it." Rylan didn't reply. Silence settled again. The queen turned to her researchers. "Leave us." They looked shocked. "Your Majesty." "I said leave us." The researchers obeyed, stepping out of the chamber. The guards hesitated but followed after receiving her quiet nod. The queen and Rylan were alone. She moved slowly around him, not as a captor, but as someone searching for truth. When she stopped in front of him again, her voice changed, quieter, gentler. "When I first touched your mind, I felt something I have never felt in any species," she admitted. "Not fear, not anger, not emptiness. Something closed, sealed." Rylan listened without moving. "You are like a star hidden behind a closed door," she continued. "I can sense its light, but I cannot reach it." Rylan lowered his eyes slightly. "I don't want anyone to reach it." "And yet," she said, stepping even closer, "your power reacts to me. It recognizes my presence. Why?" He didn't know how to answer. The truth was simple. Before he could speak, the lights flickered again just once, quick and sharp. Rylan's breath hitched. The queen stepped back slightly, finally seeing how much effort he was using to keep the power contained. She realized something at that moment. He wasn't dangerous because he held power. He was dangerous because he was trying so hard not to use it. The queen watched him with new understanding. "You are not a threat," she said quietly. "You are trying to protect us from yourself." Rylan looked up slowly, and for the first time, there was a shadow of emotion in his eyes, something like tired truth. "Yes," he said. Serelix felt a chill move through her. Not fear. Respect. This human was far more than her empire expected. And something told her his power was only beginning to wake. The lights steadied again, leaving the chamber in a soft blue glow. Rylan remained still, breathing carefully, making sure the energy inside him did not rise any further. Queen Serelix watched him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. She had never seen a being struggle so calmly against something so powerful. He was like a man holding back a storm, with nothing but willpower. For several moments, neither spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was tense, heavy with unspoken questions. The queen moved slowly, her silver robes shifting with every step, until she stood only a few paces away from him. "You cannot keep suppressing it forever," she said quietly. Rylan nodded. "I know. Then why fight it?" "Because I don't know what happens if I let it out." The queen considered this. She could sense how tightly he held himself, how every breath was measured, how every heartbeat worked like a soft barrier. The energy inside him was not hostile. It was simply too large for the small space it was contained in. She studied him again. "You are holding back something far greater than your body was made to handle." Rylan gave a faint, humorless smile. "Tell me something new." The queen almost smiled back, but she kept her expression steady. She walked around him in a slow circle, her eyes thoughtful. "When I approached you earlier, the chamber reacted. When I focused my energy on you, it reacted more strongly. Your power seems to respond to me." Rylan lowered his gaze. "I noticed." "Why me?" she asked. Rylan thought for a long moment. "Maybe because you're the only real threat in the room." Her eyes brightened a faint purple. "And are you afraid of me?" "No," he said simply. The queen had no answer to that. She stepped back, giving him space. She didn't want to trigger anything. She could see his hands tremble slightly as he fought to keep the resonance still inside him. For a moment, the chamber hummed again. A faint pulse traveled through the crystals beneath their feet. Rylan shut his eyes and inhaled sharply. The energy pushed outward, like a wave tapping at the inside of a shell. "Rylan," she said softly, "you are losing grip." "It's not anger," he said. "It's just—" His voice wasn't scared. It was focused, almost resigned. The queen lifted her hand, but not in threat and offer. "Let me help." "No. Let me help." Rylan shook his head. "Your psychic energy will only wake it up more." Serelix hesitated. She knew he was right. But she couldn't simply stand and watch him struggle. She took one slow step closer. "Then, what do you need?" Rylan opened his eyes. They were calmer again, but there was a faint glow inside them, a reflection of the power beneath his skin. "I need room," he said, "and I need you to trust that I won't attack." Trust was not something Astarian rulers gave easily. But something about him, his honesty, his calmness, his restraint, had changed her perspective. He had been captured, studied, and pushed, yet he had harmed no one. Everything inside him was built on control, not destruction. She gestured toward the guards outside. "Open the chamber. Move him to the resonance hall." The guards stared in shock. "Your Majesty, the resonance hall is not—" "It is the only place in the palace designed to withstand energy shifts of great magnitude," she said sharply. "Do as I command." Reluctantly, the guards obeyed. The moment the chamber door dissolved, the queen gave Rylan a silent signal to follow her. He walked with steady steps, but his movements were slower, heavier, as though he were carrying weight on the inside rather than the outside. They moved down the long corridor, flanked by guards who looked both ready and nervous. Rylan ignored the stairs. His focus was inward. Every few steps, the lights flickered, and each flicker made the guards tighten their grip on their weapons. "This is bad," one whispered. "This is new," the queen corrected calmly. They reached a pair of massive doors carved with ancient Astarian symbols. The guards activated the mechanism, and the doors opened to reveal a wide, circular hall filled with floating platforms and glowing blue lines that traced patterns across the floor. The Resonance Hall. It was designed to test powerful energies, study psychic storms, and contain cosmic anomalies. If anywhere could survive Ryland's awakening, it was here. The Queen entered first. Ryland followed slowly. The moment he stepped inside, the hall reacted. The lines on the floor brightened. The air grew warmer. Even the floating platforms shifted gently, responding to the new presence. Ryland exhaled shakily. This place, it feels different. It amplifies psychic and energy fields, Serelix explained. But it also stabilizes them. Think of it as a balanced environment. Ryland nodded, trying to focus. I'll try. He walked to the center of the hall. The Queen kept her distance, giving him space. She could feel the energy inside him gathering, no longer dormant but rising like a tide. Ryland closed his eyes. At first, nothing happened. Then the floor beneath him glowed brighter. The air rippled faintly. The platforms drifted away, as though pushed by an invisible wind. The Queen watched with wide eyes. This was not an attack. It was simply the release of pressure energy, stretching itself after being held back for too long. Ryland inhaled deeply, and the lights above him trembled. His body lifted slightly off the ground, only for a second, then settled. His skin glowed faintly, as if lit from within. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't angry. He wasn't fighting. He was simply releasing. A wave of soft light expanded from his body, spreading through the hall like a gentle breeze. It wasn't violent. It wasn't destructive. It was peaceful, warm, almost beautiful. The Queen felt it wash over her, but she did not flinch. For a moment, the entire hall basked in silent, glowing resonance. Then it faded slowly, softly, calmly. Ryland lowered his head and opened his eyes. The glow inside them dimmed again. His breathing was steady. Serelix stepped forward, unable to hide her astonishment. You changed the structure of the hall, she whispered. The floating platforms were arranged differently. The glowing lines reshaped themselves. The entire chamber reflected his presence. Ryland shook his head weakly. I didn't mean to. I know, she said. And that is why I stand here unafraid. He looked at her, confused. You're not scared? She shook her head. No. Now I understand. She stepped closer, her voice soft but filled with awe. You do not hold a weapon, Ryland. You hold a growing star. Ryland looked away, tired. Serelix offered a rare, gentle smile. Then, we will make sure it doesn't. For the first time, a fragile trust formed between them, something neither had expected. But both knew one thing clearly. This was only the beginning of his awakening. The hall remained silent long after Ryland's glow faded. The air still shimmered with the memory of the energy he released. The floating platforms slowly drifted back to their original positions, as if the room itself was adjusting to a new understanding of him. Ryland sat on the edge of the nearest platform, breathing calmly. He did not look exhausted, but there was a quiet weight in his eyes, something between relief and uncertainty. He had finally allowed a small part of the power to rise, and it had not destroyed anything. It had not harmed anyone. It had simply reshaped the world around him. Queen Serelix stood several steps away, watching him with deep focus. Her eyes no longer held confusion or fear. They held respect. The kind of respect she had never shown a human before. You did not lose control, she said softly. Ryland stared at the glowing lines on the floor. I didn't know what would happen. Yet you stayed calm, she replied. Not many beings can stay calm while releasing such force. He shook his head. I don't feel like I controlled it. It felt like letting a river flow after blocking it too long. And rivers can destroy, the Queen said. If they rise too fast. Rylan looked up at her. Did I destroy anything? She glanced around the hall. The room was unchanged except for a few harmless shifts in the floating platforms. No. The energy behaved like you did. Calm. Steady. Restrained. Rylan nodded slowly. Good. The Queen studied him for several long seconds. She could sense that the energy inside him was no longer fully dormant. It was awake now, but peaceful, like a creature that had stretched and then curled back into rest. You are not a weapon, she said finally. Rylan frowned slightly. A bridge, to what? To a future where humans will no longer be underestimated, she said. Where my empire cannot treat your species as simple creatures of flesh and bone. You have proven that your evolution is not something we can ignore. Rylan looked uncomfortable at the idea. He had never wanted to be a symbol. He had never wanted the galaxy to see him as anything more than a soldier who tried to prevent chaos. I didn't ask for this, he said. I know, she answered gently. But it has come to you. And now you must decide what you do with it. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Right now, I just want to make sure no one gets hurt. Serelix stepped closer, her expression softer than Rylan had ever seen. You have had the chance to harm us many times. You never did. That is why I trust you. Rylan looked at her sharply. Trust from the Asterian Queen was rare, almost unthinkable. You trust me? He asked. I trust your heart, she said simply. Even if I cannot see inside your mind, I can see your intentions clearly. Rylan didn't respond, but his silence was not rejection. It was the silence of someone who was finally being treated as more than a test subject or a threat. A soft hum filled the chamber as the doors opened. Several Asterian guards entered, led by the same researcher who had tried to measure Rylan's energy earlier. She looked nervous but determined. Your Majesty, she said quickly. The Council requests an urgent report. They demand to know if the human is a threat. The Queen turned her head slightly. He is not. The researcher hesitated. With respect, Your Majesty, the Council will not accept that answer without proof. Serelix's eyes narrowed. They have their proof. She motioned to the hall around her. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was broken. Rylan sat quietly, unrestrained, unguarded, and yet the room was in perfect order. The researcher lowered her eyes. I will tell them. When she left, the Queen walked back toward Rylan and sat gracefully beside him on the platform, not too close. Not too far. Just close enough to show she no longer saw him as a prisoner. What now? Rylan asked after a moment. Now, she said softly. I must convince my council that humanity is not a danger, and you must learn how to live with what is inside you. That sounds like years of work, Rylan said. Important things always take time, she replied. He let out a breath. I don't want to be a threat. I don't want to be a weapon in a galaxy war. Then you will not be, she said firmly. Not while I am here. There was a long pause. Rylan tilted his head, studying her. Why do you care so much? None. 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 The Queen looked forward, her silver eyes fading to a calm shade. Because power that acts without anger is rare. Because I have never seen someone hold so much force with so little ego. And because I sense that humanity's future will affect my empire's future. You want an alliance, Rylan said. Yes, she answered without hesitation. One based not on fear, but on understanding. Rylan thought about Earth. About the colony he saved. About the people who depended on him. About the Asterians watching him with fear and fascination. About the power resting quietly in his chest. An alliance isn't a bad idea, he said slowly. But I'm just one man. You are one man who changed an entire hall with a thought, Serelix said. One man who faced me without fear. One man who could have harmed us but chose not to. Sometimes, a single person is enough to start something greater. Rylan looked down at his hands. For the first time since the power awakened inside him, he didn't feel alone with it. The Queen didn't fear him. She didn't push him. She didn't treat him like a monster. She treated him like a possibility. The doors opened again, but this time the guards bowed respectfully. "Commander Rylan," one said, "by the Queen's order, you are no longer a prisoner. You are an honored guest." Rylan blinked, surprised. "Just like that?" Seralik stood, offering him a hand. "Not just like that. You earned it." Rylan hesitated only a second before taking her hand and standing with her. As they walked side by side out of the resonance hall, Rylan felt the energy inside him settle peacefully, as if it finally trusted the path ahead. The Asterian palace looked different now, not like a cage, not like an enemy stronghold, but like the beginning of something new, something fragile, uncertain, and powerful. And as Rylan and the Queen stepped into the long corridor together, both silently wondered the same thing. What would the galaxy become when humanity's hidden potential finally awakened? Whatever the answer was, they would face it not as captor and prisoner, but as partners walking toward the same horizon.